Hello and welcome to the Man Like Radio podcast. Now let's do some godly talk for godly walk.
Well, hello once again to the Man Like Radio podcast. It's another great day as we're coming in. Of course, I have, as usual, our co-host. And just want to give a shout out to everybody there. This is the Man Like Radio podcast. Now, listen, you can go to manlikeradio.com. That's manlikeradio.com if you're not there already, of course. And you can get on there and hit that red button if you have a question. And listen, we want to get your questions in. You know, we really consider them important, believe it or not. You know, we do consider your questions important, and we do use them. And of course, you know who I have on the phone with me right now, and that is none other than the man himself, Pastor Stan Farrell.
Amen.
All right. So I want to remind them, first of all, you can go to iTunes or SoundCloud to subscribe. Go right there, iTunes or SoundCloud.com, and you can subscribe to the Man Like, and you can get the podcast when they come up. In fact, after this program goes off, I would say by tomorrow, so the podcast should be up there. If you have a comment, again, go to manlikeradio.com, or you can do it here on social media, whichever is easy for you, if you don't mind your name being put forth. If you go to manlikeradio.com, you click on the red button, and once you do that, you'll put your question, it'll take you right to the comment page, and you put your questions in. Want to remember one last thing, and on behalf of myself and also Stan Farrell, I want to remember the hurricane victims around the world. That is in Puerto Rico and different parts of the world. It's sad what has happened, but we just want to keep them in prayer and say, hey, our hearts are with you, and even we ourselves are doing what we can to help a lot of these victims. So let's just take that moment, remember them all around Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Barbuda, Antigua, Florida, and Texas. Want to remember them, and also the earthquake stand in Mexico City.
Yeah, man. Oh my God.
Well, Stan, you know, not to make a mock of it, it is the end of the world. I didn't mean to go that way. All right, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to do that. And I'm not mocking our fellow ministers and so forth. But you know, guys, let's just get this right, man. Let's
yeah, they don't have the right. Just plain and simple. They don't have the right.
Right. Let's not scare the hell out of people. Let's get Jesus in their lives, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we can't.
When you put heaven in them, you got to worry about hell.
Okay, but we're talking today about, and I know we're going to get writings on that, Stan. Okay, so we're talking about godly leaders today. Stan, you are doing these godly leader meetings. You want to talk a little bit about that before we go any further?
Yes, we're doing a leadership training actually across the country as well, and we have hosting a leadership training called Kingdom Leadership Enrichment, where we're holding sessions right now currently in the city of San Antonio and here in Arlington and a couple other states in the Carolinas as well. And we're training every believer to be a leader, and if you're in leadership position or not, and from the principle and concept that God has created us to be leaders first of our lives and then beyond.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Stan. You know, a question came in already, and I'm going to go ahead and take the question, and I want to give shout-outs to those who are listening, all of you out there who are listening, but I want to deal with this question because it actually lines up to what we're going to. I was going to ask you a moment to define a godly leader, but in this question here, it's saying this is, basically, I'm paraphrasing, they've been hurt by a leader. What would you have to say, and how will you help them get back to forgiving and moving on in that area?
Yeah, you know, it's like anything, man. You know, you've been hurt by something, and a lot of times I'm gonna use the word. See, this a kind of sensitive word. When people are hurt, I like to use the word molested. You know, and molested means you've been hurt, you've been violated. Now, they don't always mean sexually. It means mentally in your thoughts and the way they do things. The point being is this: is that you have to address the issue at hand, but you gotta have restoration because you need leadership. in your life. You know, whether it's your leadership or someone's leadership, and without it, you know, you can't see the fullness of God's plan come forth in your life. So you got to address those areas. You know, you got to find somebody that you can trust and talk the thing through. Forgive that person. You got to forgive no matter what, and so you can move on with your life.
Right. Regardless. So you got to forgive.
You got to move on.
You got to move on. You got to move on. And Stan, would you also say to not to, again, I don't want to come back and go by the opposite way, but would you also say, and expect in your life that people will let you down, but don't allow that to stop you from following someone?
Yeah, people let you down, you know, and whether you're a leader or not, we in this flesh, and we all carry and wear humanity, and we don't always handle it right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so you got to give provisions for failure in that regard. That don't excuse them, but you got to give a vision for your sake, and that's for their sake, you know. And that's what mercy and grace is all about.
Right.
You know, if you never need it, you never have to use it, then hey, what's the reason for its existence?
Well, I have to ask this, even though it was the opposite way, Jesus hang around with Judas. People would say, well, that was his destiny. But, you know, how many of us would have done that, even though Judas wasn't so much, Jesus was leading him. He knew he was a betrayer. Yeah. He knew he was going to betray him, but he still dealt with him and gave him the opportunity to serve. That's interesting.
Yeah. You know what, Pastor, let me say this. I found out, man, over the years, man, a lot of times people are looking for an excuse not to serve in a way. And so when somebody hurts you as a leader, that means this: you were always looking for a reason not to serve. You just finally found it. And you will say, that leader failed me. That's not why you're not serving. That exposed you, which means you didn't want to serve anyway, and you found a reason. So you can't trust nobody. Well, to say you can't trust leaders is also equal to saying you can't trust yourself. Because here's what I found out: that when people fail me, they fail themselves first. So when you stop trusting me, you stop trusting yourself first.
Wow.
You know, and simple as that. And so it's really not about the leader hurting you. It's about the leader hurting you expose what you really felt about you in the first place.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. So let's define now, Stan, a godly leader. You deal with this all the time. You even a while ago you spoke in that area. Define, Stan, a godly leader. Now, I'll tell you right away what it is before I cut you. I'm sorry to cut you. Yeah. He's a man that comes in and he got everything cool.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, a godly leader. I'm gonna give you a practical, simple definition that I use, and then I'm gonna give you 4 principles that you'll find in a godly leader. Mm-hmm. One definition is this: godly leader is a man or woman, an individual who desire to operate, to live, and be like God in reference to people. Simple as that. You have a heart for God and a heart for people. Mm-hmm. That's a godly leader, you know, in its simple definition. But here's 4 key principles that you always find in a godly leader. Number 1, and I'm gonna use the word leader. L, the principle of love. E, the principle of empowerment. A leader, first and foremost, the foundation is loving people, loving themselves, and loving people as they love themselves. Secondly, the E, empowerment. A godly leader wants to empower other people to be who God created them to be. Number 3, the A, accountability. A godly leader is a person who not only demands accountability but demonstrates accountability. He's accountable to somebody, because you can't be a leader if you're not following somebody, if you're not accountable to somebody. Right. The D in leaders, discipline. Mm-hmm. A godly leader is a person of discipline. You know, they're always working on growing themselves and developing themselves and developing others. The E in leader after D is excellent. A godly leader has a spirit of excellence. And the R in leader stands for relationship. A godly leader values relationships. So because that proves that you care about people. Relationship. Well, Stan, that's a high standard to stand by. Yeah, it is a high standard. But listen to this. It's a journey, though. Okay. That don't mean they perfect all of those, but that's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
See, but you on that path, pursuing those principles. You be at different levels, but those are your pursuits as a leader. Don't mean you've accomplished and achieved those things. As Paul said, I haven't arrived, but I'm pressing toward tomorrow. See, you're always in the process of becoming, but that's the path as a leader you're on. If you're not on that path,
right,
you're not going to end up being a leader. Simple as that.
Mm. Wow.
So those are key principles.
Okay, so do you see today a void? Despite that, you just mentioned, which is awesome, but do you, despite lining up to everyone, but do you see it today, both politically, both spiritually, both?
Man, there's a leadership void in every sector of life.
Wow.
And in some areas of society, we've seen it more obvious than others because of people's voices. Some things are more out front than others, but there's a void of leadership in every sector of life, in the church, out of church, around the church, down the street from the church. It don't make no difference, you know. And because one of the things I'm finding, Dr. Rich, is this, and I didn't say this, but a leader really has to do with a person being who God created them to be before other people.
Right, right.
See,
correct.
Being a leader has nothing to do with a position.
Right.
It has nothing to do with a title.
Right, right. I hear you.
It has to do with.
I hear you.
It has to do with you being a genuine person that others need to be, and you being as best you can an example of that. With all your flaws, with all your issues at the same time, because there's no perfect leader, so you ain't gonna find one perfect. You know, but you'll find leaders pursuing maturity, you know, and pursuing these things that I just talked about. But it's needed in every sector of life.
And because of that lacking and we're talking about godly too, because of that lacking of godly leadership, we have this great void where people, you know, but Stan, you know, and you know, you've gone through this before. You've said this before, so it's nothing new to our group, our folks. And we want to give a shout out to everybody right there who is listening. Hey, Gary. In fact, Gary, guess who was our guest last week, is also on. I want to say thank you for listening and so forth. But
bless you, Gary.
Yeah, bless you. Great program last week. Yes. Great program. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me say this, is what you're saying is dead right. But then would you add to this and say, when it comes to leadership, okay, some people will say, well, I have, and this is just a general thing, I have so many leaders in my life. I mean, I know that Paul says you have many teachers, but few fathers. Would you say a leader lines up more in the father role than just being a person who just leads?
Well, you know, that is a level, but all leaders are not developed to that point to be fathers, but it should eventually lead to that. Because, in other words, you know, because you're not a father, someone don't mean you're not a leader. Right. You know, and so that should be an element, because that's somewhat the father part of leadership is becoming a leader of leaders. Mm-hmm. You know, and but then you have those leaders who are leaders of people in general and whatnot. So there's different levels of leadership in that respect. So, but there's a father part to it. But then that comes over time and development, and then as you mature among those that you lead. But all leaders are not necessarily father, you know, in that current state, but they should develop into that at some point. Right.
Well, before we go to the break, let's talk about a leader that has made you, and you don't have to get into specifics, but, well, yeah, I guess in some ways, that has made a great impact in your life, and why? And I know you've had many men come through your life who have led, but one, and why?
Well, I would say my current spiritual father. My pastor, he's a pastor, Michael Thomas, if you had to listen or whatever, in Greensboro, North Carolina. You know, through all of what I've been through, the ups and downs, my failures, my success and whatever, he's been a consistent, even, a balanced component in my life, and chastising me, encouraging me, you know, disciplining me, and loving on me, supporting me, and, you know, doing the negative and the positive. And so that's what people got to understand about leadership. You know, that they deal with and they bring to you what we call the negative and the positive, because the negative meaning stuff you don't like. stuff that makes you upset, stuff that bothers you, that we consider that negative. It ain't necessarily negative. It don't have a negative outcome so much, but we don't like it, so we call it negative. But the positive things, the thing that you do like, the thing that you do want, and kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, it all works together for our good. You know? And so that's the individual, you know, among others. I can call a few others, you know, that stood out in my life and been a leader to me. But here's the most important piece to they've been a leader to me. They've been an example of what they've been telling me and what they give me. See? In other words, they personify what they bring to me. They don't just bring me truth, but they personify the truth they bring to me. That's the most important component of a leader. It's easy to give people direction and instructions that you don't follow. Wow. See, a real leader is really giving you stuff that they follow as well. See, and so that makes it easier for you to receive it. And why? Because they follow somebody too. And so that's been the most important thing that I've noticed in my spiritual father is that he hasn't given me anything that he's not doing or he hasn't done and that he doesn't follow. Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And then the scripture calls that the scripture calls that an example. An example means you are on the inside what you look like on the outside. See, most people talk about being a good example. Well, an example means an outside image. An example means the inside person. So Jesus was an example and an example. Right. Yeah, you find that in 1 Peter, those two different words. You know, and so a good leader strives to be an example first, so he can be a good example. Wow, wow. Well, we got to go to a break. And as we get ready for this break, Stan, I just want to say there's somebody who wrote in and says, "Hi, I am connecting from London." And then he puts on here, thank you very much. It said from London, thought Gary Guess was absolutely amazing last week. Love your program. Well, we want to say thank you to whoever you are connecting from London. And by this time, you should be in bed, but I guess they are in bed. And yes, it was a great program last week with Gary Guess. And by the way, you can go to manlightradio.com, or you can go to iTunes on Manlight Radio or SoundCloud, and you can listen to that program. And we want to thank the guests for allowing them to allowing us the privilege to speak with them. It was a great Manlight Radio broadcast last week, and don't miss it because it's got a great testimony about how he stood for his wife. So we're talking about leaders, Stan, and we've got to go to this ad, and we'll be right back in a moment. We're talking about godly leaders here on the Manlight Radio broadcast. Hello, men out there who are listening to us on the Manlight Radio. In fact, you might be listening or you might be even watching us on a social network. I want to remind you, please, we need subscribers. We need for you to pick up your phone or your tablet or your computer, and I know you can't pick your computer up, but anyway, we need for you to go ahead and type in and go to manlightradio.com. That's manlightradio.com, and subscribe to us. Or you can email us at manlightradio@gmail.com. That's manlightradio@gmail.com. Please, we need subscribers. Why do we need them? Because that way we can keep in touch with you, and it helps us to know who's following. You can get your comments in and after the show. You can get your comments before the show. You can bring it in after the show. You can bring it in between the show. But the point is this: we would like you to subscribe to us. And we've got something special for every man who subscribes by going to manlightradio@gmail.com. That's manlightradio@gmail.com. That's the email way, or going to our website at manlightradio.com. Now, if you're not already there, scroll on down to the bottom if you're at the Manlight Radio site, and just go ahead and subscribe. So once again, manlightradio.com is our website where you can subscribe, or you can go to manlightradio@gmail.com and email us and put your name in or your comments. Well, thank you once again, and let's get right back into the program.
Well, I'm Richard Borden. We're back. Of course, my co-host is Stan Farrell. I should say host. We're both hosting it. And Stan, we are talking about godly leaders.
Yes.
Now,
yes,
I'm going to go into a part. Now, Man Like is not a political program, okay? So, folks, you know, there's enough guys out there doing that. But let's talk about, and I won't get into all the details, recently of a situation happened where our, I guess, father of our nation, president, made a comment. And some of it was not really godly in the saying. So, Stan, how do we deal with a leader? We're not dealing with the issue of wrong or right. How do we deal with a leader who might say something that is not maybe tasteful or in the right order? How do we deal with that?
One word, my brother. One word.
Go ahead.
See, this is paramount for all leadership. If nothing else, every leader must have the trademark of wisdom. The Bible says, "A life, a house, a nation is built by wisdom." You know, and then it also talks about in Proverbs, I believe it is 18:22, says about life and death is in the power of a tongue. A leader has to understand, and this has been so true since the creation of mankind on earth. And you find historically leaders understood this, that as a leader, I mean, even the emperors understood this kingdom principle, that you have to be careful when you open your mouth as a leader. Why? Because when leaders say things, leader carry an authority that others don't, that things becomes almost law. You know, literally. But in principle, spiritual, it is law. So you got to understand that. And but two things you do. You produce life or death.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right.
You know, and to govern that life and death component of the tongue, wisdom is the only thing that can harness that. And so when you know, got someone who does not use wisdom, then they're going to violate that principle every time. You cannot use emotions. You cannot. See, wisdom is above right and wrong.
Right.
See, it's beyond right and wrong. It's about, is this appropriate? Is it appropriate time? What would be the outcome? What are we trying to accomplish and whatever? See, wisdom going to think this thing through. You know, and so this is leadership in the house, husband and wives and the children, you know, and in the church and in the White House and in every sector of life. Yeah. Wisdom is the key. And when you don't have it, you get what you get.
And you know what, Stan, I like what you just said. In fact, you know, I've read so many different things even the past few days and so forth. I'm just reading and picking up. I like what you said. You've just hit it right there. If we don't use proper godly, quote, now we're talking about the godly men, proper godly wisdom and direction of the Holy Spirit, then you're right. Whatever we say is gonna crash everything. Because the power...
Watch this.
Good.
The scripture says, even a fool. Watch this now. Even a fool, it says, when he holds his tongue, appears wise.
Wow. Say it again.
It says, even a fool, when he holds his tongue and is silent, appears wise and is wise at that moment. So wisdom is no respecter of person.
Right.
See? And so, hey, say no more, man.
I know you solved that one up there. That is so true. That is so true. So we have to use. So it actually means coming back and really listening to God, no matter what position we're on. I'm just saying, if we say we're truly godly people, I'm talking about godly men, and even regular men in the world still should use wisdom. The only thing that we have the Holy Spirit to lead us.
Available to all. God make wisdom available to all. I mean, think about all the scientific advancement and technology. That's all the wisdom of God at work in different forms. But listen to this. You see, but when you don't value wisdom and you value what you think, what you feel, then you can't never get what you get. So you got to value wisdom, you know, and you got to think about, you got to care about how it's going to impact other people. You know, in order to use wisdom. If you don't care about that, then you throw wisdom out the window.
Well,
So,
here's a question that came in, Stan. I want to remind everybody you can get your questions in. You still got a few minutes. Go to manlikeradio.com, manlikeradio.com. Click on the red button. It will take you right into our Slido page where you can write your questions down, and we're monitoring it, and we will get out. We're posted here on social media. Your name, you can leave your name. You don't have to leave your name. You can put your questions here on social media. Let's talk about this question that came in, and basically what it says here. Does a leader, specifically a godly leader, have a right to degrade somebody even when the leader is right and the person is wrong?
No, you know, no, you don't. Let me say this. One of the key components of use wisdom is to be able to relinquish your rights.
Say that again. That's good. Say that again.
One of the key components to operating in wisdom is have the ability to relinquish your rights. Because you may have the right to do something, but wisdom say that ain't the way to do it, that ain't the time to do it, and that ain't how to say it. So we got to get off this I have a right so much, because a lot of times our rights can do more damage than otherwise. So you're going to correct somebody, leader, you never have a right to disrespect anybody, even if they're wrong.
Right.
I've had people do things wrong, say things wrong, but if I degrade them and I enforce my rights, then I've done no better than what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the leader, I have to lead at all times. See? Because one of the objectives of correction and discipline is not to show my displeasure, my anger, but to get you to see what's right. So if I degrade you and I belittle you, then I made the objection or the objective my personal interest, my feelings. See, the objective of correction, see, when God corrects us, he don't correct us so we can know how angry he is. He corrects us so he can bring us up, not show his anger. That's not the objective of his correction.
Right.
Now that don't mean he doesn't get angry. That's not what I'm saying. But when you start talking about degrading people and disrespecting people, that means you no longer leading at that point. You don't join their group. You don't took the low road.
So in many ways, what you're saying, Stan, is true, which Jesus never did. I remember I'm looking at the part in the Bible when the Pharisees were offended, and the disciples went and said, "You offended the Pharisees," and Jesus just kept going. He didn't stop and turn around and said, and just blast them, the kingdom come. He just kept moving on. Like you said, he used the wisdom of the Holy Spirit and was not going to. He was not going to join. Like you said, he was not going to join their group. I like that.
Yeah.
Because you're right. When we degrade, we not.
Them.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See, this is why he said to his disciples. He said, "Except your ways, your righteousness exceed their righteousness, you can't enter the kingdom." See, he told them, "Listen, you got to do things different than they do. You can't do what they do, because you do, then you just join their group." Yeah, they wrong, but you don't. I'm gonna say it like this. If you got a group of people who think they're better than another group of people, you don't put your race above their race to prove that their race is not superior.
Right.
You just did the same thing they did.
Right.
So the way you get somebody to see that they're wrong is not by joining them, but by staying at the standard that they need to bring, and then bring them up to the standard. Correct.
So right. So, and you're right. So we're dealing with godly leaders here in the Man Like Radio program. We have a few minutes left. We're dealing with what it takes to be a leader and signs that we're looking for. And sad to say, Stan, we've agreed in the beginning that we do have a void today in the world of such leaders. So let's deal with this last question here, Stan. And it's a question that actually didn't come in. I actually looked it up here. And it says this: How should we react, Stan, to a man who has failed? And I know we just dealt a while ago with somebody who just said that they can't trust leadership. But how should we react now to a man, and just say we're going to stay on it, who has failed? Should we go and confront him and let him know he's wrong? Take it from there.
No, well, first of all, you can't correct without a relationship. That's the first thing.
I want you to say that again. Say that again. That's good.
You can't correct people without a relationship. Though you may be right and they wrong, what qualifies you to correct them is your relationship with them. If you don't have a relationship with them, then you're just an observer. Then all you can do is pray for them. You don't have the permission or the authority to correct anybody, in that regard, because you don't have a relationship. The relationship qualifies you for that, number one. Then number two, because of the relationship, then the objective you must have is to restore them through the relationship. See? And so this is why people don't do restoration, because they don't have a relationship. Well, you don't want to think about restoring somebody you don't have a relationship with, but if you got a relationship with somebody, you want to restore them.
Right, correct.
So you got to qualify for correction, and then the objective of correction is restoration. Why? Because you have to put yourself in their shoes. So you may never do what they do, but you're going to need what they need somewhere and somehow. That is restoration. We all will.
Well, Stan, last weekend I saw an example of this. We had Gary Guest, and his wife had a horrific head trauma and was basically left to die. It was a miracle of God. But I saw a man serving his wife, according to the Bible, but still she respected him in leadership. I'm not saying anybody's perfect, but she respected him. And she didn't respect him just for serving. She respected him because he was actually, like you said, he had this relationship with his wife that God asked us to have. And I see that with you too in that era. That this thing, well, you're wimpy, you're mamby-pamby, you're sissy, you're just making a woman walk over you, and just Jezebel spirit and all that type of stuff. You understand that? But I saw that, and so you're right. If we don't have a relationship, we're not going to be able to relate, and we're not going to be able to bring restoration. Correct. So say it again, because I want to hear it one more time. Say it again.
So to qualify for correction, you must have a relationship or build a relationship before you can bring it, and then the objective has to be to bring that person to restoration. People ask the question all the time: if they fail, can they ever be put back? Listen, there ain't nobody that can be restored.
Right.
We just don't like to restore people.
Right. We're not in the restoration business of human beings. Or humankind. We're in the restoration of old cars.
If they're disqualified in our mind, and they're disqualified in God's mind.
Right. And we're in the restoration of old cars, old furniture, old houses, but not old folks.
And that's Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. Restore such a one in the spirit of meekness. Consider yourself, lest you also be tempted.
Wow.
Point blank, man.
Right.
As hard as it may be, that's what we got to do.
Right. Well, we're at the end of the program. Can you believe it?
Wow, my goodness, time flies.
Yeah, it does fly, and I know you got to get rest.
But I'm going to get on the computer. I got work to do.
Oh, okay, you're like me, I usually, though. I want to say first of all, before Stan and I go, thank you to everyone who does watch the Man Like Radio and listens to it. Again, you can go to iTunes.com, or iTunes, I should say. If you have an iPhone, if you don't have an iPhone, you can still go to iTunes, or you can go to SoundCloud, and you can get the Man Like Radio program each week automatically right into your phone or your tablet or whatever, or computer, where you're watching us or listening to us on. And then, of course, you can go to manlikeradio.com. That's manlikeradio.com. And there you'll be able to listen to past broadcasts and find out about Stan's ministry and treasures of excellence.
We're going to be all over the place here.
Yeah, please. And maybe even come to one of these leadership meetings that he's having in November. I think that some of you can be able. We're going to talk more about that and maybe just set a program to doing it. And, but we're just going to say that to you. Please, please, please be a part of that. We love you in the Lord. We've been talking about godly leadership. And every time Stan comes on, we talk about successfully you. We talk about leading the way God wants us to. And we're going to continue that next time when we meet with Stan next month on the program. And we need to get all three of you guys back again, Stan, and do a powwow again and blow this place wide open. Shout out to all of you who have been listening, all of you around the world. Welcome to the gentleman in London. Hey, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. We know in India, not boasting, we know in India. Also found recently a guy in Africa has been listening to us. Hey, thank you so much. Awesome. And on behalf of myself and Stan Farrell, Arthur Culpepper, and Jeff Daniels, and our guest last week, Gary Guest, we want to say God bless you. And we will be back next time on the Man Like program. Stan, you got any closing words?
Yes. Listen, it is possible, and I encourage you to do so. Live as God created you, regardless of where and when you were born.
Woo! Awesome. We'll be back next week. Thank you once again for joining us on this Man Like podcast. Please take time and email us at manlikeradio@gmail.com. Once again, that's manlikeradio@gmail.com. Man Like Podcast is a production of R.N. Boyd Productions and Love Gospel Network. Please seek a qualified professional in the area you need immediate help.